All right, I think we have a quorum now, so we can go ahead and get started. I think we are also having some technical difficulties in terms of Zoom, is that right?
You can see us, but we can't, we're not gonna be able to show the projection.
Okay,
And
they can see us.
Mhm.
They're watching, in other words.
Yes.
Be on your best behavior. All right, well, welcome to the Medical Advisory Subcommittee, and we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. And we can start with introductions. I guess we'll go ahead and start on this side of the room, and we'll work our way around.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Spencer Harnett. I'm the paramedic representative.
Good morning, Rachel Nealand, AMR-CES.
Ben Hitchcock, AMR-CES.
Morning, Jeff Warner, Program Director with Chelsea Air Ambulance.
Jesse Caldera, Natividad.
Jeff Watkins, Carmel Police Department, I'm with Clear Red.
Teresa Rios, EMS Director.
John Brill, EMS Medical Director.
Good morning, Deborah Hopgood, EMS Agency.
Michelle Kalinsky, Jump.
Morning, Josh Sevignon, EMT representative.
Justin Reyes, Division Chief, EMS for Monterey County Regional.
Brian Alexander, Salinas Fire Department, EMS Officer.
Good morning, my name is David Sargenti, the Fire Chief, Monterey County Regional Fire District.
Jim Courtney, Monterey Fire Assistant Fire Chief. Steve Brooks, EMS Agency.
Blake Anderson, EMS Agency.
Michael Leo, Cal Fire EMS.
Logan Armstrong, paramedic intern.
Karina Moreno, EMS Agency.
Kimberly Hernandez, EMS Agency.
Do we have anyone online, Karina, that we need to?
Yes, we don't. Yeah.
Good morning, Devin Haggy, Fort Lake Fire Department.
It also shows Matt Everts from Salinas Fire Department online as well.
Yes, good morning. I can't see, I can only see the video. I didn't know I was on. Yeah, Matt Everett, Salinas Fire Department, Deputy Chief.
Okay, well, thank you and welcome, everyone. We'll go ahead and move on to public comments. So are there any comments from the public? All right, well, that brings us to approval of the past MAC meeting minutes. And we're going to go ahead and table approval until the November meeting pertaining to the MAC meeting minutes from July. Correspondence, we have none. And the first report is the EMS agency updates from Teresa Rios.
So quick.
We're moving quick, Teresa.
Good morning, thank you. First, I want to say, most of you probably already know, but Jesse, our EMS analyst, left the EMS agency, is now with the Central Coast Overdose Prevention Program. So he's still collaborating with us because they're involved with the buprenorphine program that we have going on. We have put a plan together to make sure that the responsibilities that Jesse had don't fall through the cracks. So we have distributed things internally. Another app I wanted to give you is there's a new project that has landed on our lap. There's a new benefit offered by Medi-Cal for a mobile crisis unit that is requiring implementation of the mobile crisis unit by the end of this year. So this is moving really, really fast. There was a referral from the Board of Supervisors for the implementation, and Salinas, the City of Salinas also issued a similar referral for the City of Salinas. So we are working with City of Salinas, Behavioral Health, County Behavioral Health, County Communications, and other agencies to see the implementation, because it will affect, part of it will affect pre-hospital care, but it has potential to bring some good benefits to patients. The mobile crisis units, as you know, would respond and assess and how to refer patients to appropriate services. And the ultimate goal is that eventually they will also transport patients to appropriate facilities, thus minimizing the need to transport patients to the ER that maybe don't need to go to. So that's freeing up ambulances for the 911 system and just ensuring that, the hospitals and ensuring that the patients are getting treatment and care where they need. So, like I said, this is moving really fast, not a lot of fun details. Thank you. I'm running out of words so early in the morning. And as soon as the project develops, we will continue to brief this group. The buprenorphine project, with the departure of Jesse, Blake and I have taken the lead. We are participating in meetings, just trying to get our bearings, but we still need to get up to speed on some things. We received a grant, the 3 counties received a grant from CCDPH. Oh, goodness gracious. So we are reviewing what the deliverables are for that grant and just making sure that we'll, upon execution of it, we'll be able to, submit all of our deliverables. For part of it, we're in pass-through, so we're working through that. The last thing is that I want to update on is the RFP. I know everybody has been curious, everybody has been asking. Based on the lessons that we learned from the last RFP, the recent SWOT analysis, conversations with the EMS authority, county council, county leadership, what we did is we prepared a draft of the RFP. We are going to release it for public comment, just similar to what we do with policies and protocols. We felt that, giving something more tangible for individuals for our stakeholders to be able to say, give us input and comments on it. We want to schedule some public meetings to make sure that everybody has the same opportunity. The key for us during this process is to ensure that everybody has the same opportunity to provide input. So holding individual meetings is not, we have been advised not to do that. So what we are looking at is holding some public meetings. And what we are proposing is to hold a special joint meeting, board meetings with MAC, EMCC, and OPS. So that we can hear the stakeholder input directly. So after allowing time for stakeholders to be able to read the RFP and the public to read the RFP, that we can come together and get that input. We find that MAC, EMCC, and OPS, the meetings are the places where we have great representation from the system. We have committee members that are who are key stakeholders who have intimate knowledge of the system and are very involved. Our committee representatives are very candid. Thank you for that. We hear concerns, we hear ideas, we hear critiques. So this is probably a very good place for us to seek the input. By holding it as a public meeting, it also ensures that anybody else who wants to say something about it has that opportunity. So, we would like to schedule that special meeting sometime in October. So we'll follow up with some dates. And that is the extent of my report. I'm happy.
One question about I know you don't have a lot of information, but the mobile crisis unit, is that going to be a countywide
Yes.
resource?
Yes. So, and correct me, Deborah, she's been attending the meetings with me, but it's moving really fast. So yes, it's supposed to be countywide, but there was also a separate referral through the city. So they has started working sort of on implementing a program for the city of Salinas. But this is supposed to be countywide.
So and then I heard you mention something or possibly about alternate destinations of taking those patients to other facilities other than EDs. So if that mobile crisis unit weren't available, would we be in a position to allow our ambulances to basically do the same thing and divert to a non-emergency room?
Those are the things go ahead, Deborah.
The challenge with the alternate destination piece is that when it's an EMS unit doing that, it requires a community paramedicine program, which I think everybody knows has this huge sort of infrastructure around it and additional training and all of that kind of thing. So I think that would be a kind of a more to be determined as the program develops.
Yeah. But we know that is one of the goals of that program. They want to have transport.
Any other questions for Teresa? Thank you, Teresa. The next item on the agenda is MOAC activities, and Deborah has a report on that.
So with Jesse's departure, I'll be reassuming the primary responsibility for the Mohawk program. There is a written report in your agenda packet. Just a couple of things to highlight. There's updated COVID data in the packet. The county is now updating once a month, so this is the most recent data that was available. We're also doing a final push to demobilize the remaining PPE and COVID tests. So there's a list in the written report of what's available. Essentially, it's COVID-19 tests and a small number of CLIA-waived COVID and flu tests, average size gowns and N95 masks. So if you have a need for any of those items, please put in a request and we'll do our best to fill based on what we have left. So otherwise, there's some information in the packet on upcoming ChemPAC plan updates and training. So there are 2 classes, one scheduled for October 25th and one for October 26th. I'll be sending out a flyer for that shortly. We just got the finalized one yesterday. So that's a joint effort with our public health and the state as well. So open to everybody, and we'll be giving free CE credit as well. And that is all I have unless anybody has any questions.
Regarding the code test and other materials, is that supposed to be through you, or is there a particular platform that we're using otherwise?
It's the online Mohawk resource request. So if you need the link, I can send it to you, or it's on our website.
I can find it.
All right, thanks, Deborah. The next item is ambulance patient offload times. Kimberly has a report on that.
Good morning. There's a APOT PowerPoint in your or slides in your agenda packet. But just reporting on June and July, we have kind of like a rolling quarter in the PowerPoint though. So for June and July, APOT decreased at Salinas Valley Health and at Natividad. It was at kind of a little bit of a higher level or times in May. And then Chomp and me tend to stay very stable or about the same time. So I think that's about all I have to report on that. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Okay, the next item under old business is health data exchange implementation. And Blake.
Good morning, everyone. I have relatively short report on here. So the report was distributed in your packets, but just kind of a brief overview that the EMS agency was able to hold our data working group, our kickoff data working group for the HDE project first time on August 28th. During that time, we had ESO and many of our providers in all of our hospitals in attendance. We were very appreciative of everyone being there and being able to collaborate and give their input. During that time, we were also able to release ESO's essentials list for the project of all the data points that we're looking to share and have exchanged. The only updates as of right now that we have that differs from your report in there is Natividad is continuing to work with ESO and expanding their data points and including hospital notes, which would be similar to like physician notes or more patient care centered pieces of information for the providers. And Chomp, according to here, we had the IT staff confirm that they received the questionnaire from ESO and we're working to get through it. Since we published this report, Chomp has graciously acknowledged that the project was approved at their August domain council meeting. And so we will work with ESO and Chomp to get a kind of a kickoff meeting going to continue with the HDE project, but we were excited to see that. And we've also got Me Memorial starting the process. We're working with them to establish a kickoff meeting with them as well. And SVH has been meeting regularly with ESO, and we had a meeting with ESO and AMR on related follow-up issues in regards to the hospital not receiving PCRs, and we got a little more information from there, and it was very beneficial for us. So, does anyone have any questions on the HDE report at this time?
Just a heads up with Natividad, I have a query out with ESO right now. So I can see on ESO's tracker when like AMR puts in their PCRs that they say that their outcome has been sent, but they're not showing up in our Meditech. So I've been having to print or find them and export them to billing and stuff in our department. They're not crossing over, but I don't know if it's a Meditech issue on our side. But ESO is looking at it. So I know this is recent. And then I get 20 emails a day from the communication between our IT and ESO. They're still having some issues with the data points and what's crossing over for outcome data back into ESO.
Yeah, I've been seeing a little bit of that, but thank
It's
you
like
for-
20 emails a day plus.
I empathize, yeah, I've been
Oh,
telling
yeah.
Teresa, going, I can't keep up, and there's a lot of language I don't
Yeah,
understand.
but our IT is working with ESO because we are not getting, on the ESO side, it looks like it crossed over, but it's actually not crossing over into our Meditech. So don't have like any PCRs. I'm having to go into ESO to print them off.
Well, thank you for that update, that's very helpful for us.
Probably there's like a pre-designed form, almost like an Outlook, Excel form. That if it's not lined up with ESO,
Well, they've been messing with a lot of the different buttons that they're turning on and off, and so I think that's been an issue lately. So, they said they're working.
yeah, if the form doesn't line up with Meditech, then it's gonna produce an error,
Yeah.
And a quick question.
enough to make you old.
I have noticed that there's more and more times where I'll be finishing a case and I don't have a PCR. Do you guys have data on the numbers that are getting transmitted in the, typical hour that we request or so?
Not off the top of my head, but it shouldn't be very difficult to get that information.
Maybe have that for next time, because I have noticed, like, I'll go looking to try to import it into my charting information and stuff, and it's still not available for review. And the problem is that sometimes there's EKGs and things like that out there that are getting, like, I don't know where they're left, the hard copies, but without seeing those, there's then things that end up in that medical record that have never been reviewed or read.
I'm a little more concerned about the data connection between ESO and CHOMP, just because like, I know it works with Natividad
Well, we
because
were
there's
fine. I mean,
there's bi-directional information. I just wonder sometimes if there's some kind of delay due to a setting error.
we had been totally fine, but in the last at least couple months, it's frequent that there's not a PCR uploaded on our system at the time of disposition of the patient. So maybe if we can have the data to know when they're getting transmitted, and I mean, you guys are crazy busy too, right? So it may just be that they're not getting done quite as quickly, and then we just need to see if we can optimize.
I think definitely that's doable.
Sounds good, thanks.
Chief Reyes?
And Teresa, I appreciate you coming over and talking to me before the meeting, but I mean, I have to go on record of saying that I understand that our focus is on the transport end because sounds like that's gonna be the easiest thing to fix. But from a QI perspective and, especially for Salinas Fire, who does 14,000 PCRs a year, to sort of put the fire PCRs on the back burner because, there is no solution, or it's going to have a lot of work through. I just don't think that's fair. So, I mean, that definitely needs to be addressed because we need to get that information back as well for the people that are seeing the patient on the front end, right? So, it's just important for that QI aspect of, we need to address that and figure out why the mobile to mobile or the linking of the PCRs isn't happening at the hospitals. It was brought up in the first meeting that there was a hospital that said that they never saw our PCRs, which really concerned me. Teresa said that has been resolved with a click of a button, so that's good. So we're seeing it. We should, start getting information back. But, thanks for including us in the meeting on Friday and then look forward to the next one.
Yeah, and we agree with you in the sense of we do want to get you guys the information, especially for the first responder versus the ambulance transport. And again, we're trying to tackle the issues as best as what we can as fast. So we're even though like there's the mobile to mobile issues, we're still looking at maybe other options of how we can still at least get you something in the meantime to work. But that's a juggling act that we're trying to figure out right now. So but we are working on it.
And what's interesting, and Mike from CAL FIRE could probably back me up on this one, is CHOMP is really good about giving us the Ryan White notifications about COVID patients. And some of the COVID patients we've had have been fire-based PCRs. So obviously it's there, right? They're seeing this stuff. and we're getting that important information back. So, I don't think we're as far as we might think we are from being able just to link things together. So,
Chief, I apologize that I gave you the impression that we will be putting the non-transport in the back burner. That's not the case. I think that I'm excited because I think that there are options available to us. They can start to give us some results and we can start to see some of that exchange that are easy, as I always say, that low hanging fruit. And so to me, it's almost like peeling layers, right? So, and we're working on those. Non-transport is on our list of things to accomplish. We will continue to have those conversations with ESO and in the EMS data working group, but it's not being put in the back burner at all.
I was just wondering if too, I definitely agree with what Jesse's saying, but I'd also like to, because we've done this before, I'm very optimistic, obviously, that we're kind of putting together a new team to kind of combat all of this, because as you know, right now, if we get the fastest way for us to find out that our patient had tuberculosis, which was like the last one, or somebody came out of the hospital or something like that, is direct relationships, obviously, with the ambulance company and those interactions. We find out, I'm just throwing a number out there because it feels like 100% of the time it's the firefighters, get back to me and say, hey, hopefully you find out soon, but we just had a positive tuberculosis patient, or, this patient, we just found out had this, that, or the other thing. This is very important. And so I hope that the momentum kind of stays consistent with this HDE thing. This is very high priority, especially when you do hear back all of this super important information from the telephone game. And so, I don't know, I just want to, reemphasize the importance of this for us. This is very, very important. So thank you for making this kind of like on your forefront. And I hope that there is going to be metrics where we reach certain points where I've had hours and hours and hours of conversations with ESO. And so I'm kind of taking a backseat to the interactions with ESO, because for the last 4 years, they've told me about, we're coming to iOS, we're doing these things, we're doing that. And I've already heard it too many times to really want to fully engage with the ESO platform at this point. But I hope we have some type of measurements or metrics that we reach that are decision trees. Okay, you know what? Maybe we need to look at third-party softwares. Maybe we need to look at a third-party software to integrate what ESO can't do to get information back that abides by HIPAA and not everything else. So just a quick comment on that. Hopefully we can develop measurements.
Yeah,
Oh,
no,
we'll take it. Yeah.
yes, no, I do appreciate it. And I, as someone who was still in the field during the COVID pandemic, I completely understand getting that information back. Being a provider, was that a COVID patient? Like, you don't need to know. At least when the system I came in, I didn't get a lot. So I empathize, I totally do. And I do appreciate, the feedback, so. Anything?
Yeah, please.
Yes.
So I would like to make some comments on this, and I echo a lot of what was said earlier. I'll let this conversation.
I'm sorry.
I think it's very important that we continue to have this. I'm happy to see that on this agenda as well as the EMCC agenda. This is the most critical point that you folks are doing as leaders in this organization for your first responders. I think you really need to take that to heart. I'm glad to see we finally have all the hospitals engaged, which we haven't had in the past. This program has been in place or trying to be put in place for the last 10 years. That's unacceptable for all of us as leaders in this organization. So I'm happy to see it moving forward. I hope that collaboration continues, and know that we are actually really wanting you folks to be successful in this, and we're putting resources in there to help assist that. So please recognize that it comes on both ends, right? One, the information that we need from our patients to protect our people, which are being harder and harder to find and harder to retain, particularly in this county. And two, for the education and growth of our people to get the outcomes of what their hard work did with transitioning to a hospital care and eventually hopefully getting that patient out. So it's full circle on two different sides. So I ask you to continue that hard work, continue to make this the priority. and get it to the finish line this time. Thank you.
Problem. Thank you, Chief. And hearing nothing else, thank you very much.
Thank you, Blake, and thank you, Chief, for your comments. We definitely take that to heart, and this is a top priority for the agency. So we've been trying for a long time, and there's lots of obstacles and lots of frustrations along the way. But we are committed to making this happen, and we're going to continue to push for it. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is MAC member appointment, and Deborah, that's you.
So we have just one potential change to the MAC committee membership, and that is for the alternate for the law enforcement position, Chief Borquin. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong.
Yeah, you got it right.
Oh, okay. All right. He's the chief of police for the city of Delray Oaks, and Maclea has nominated him as the alternate for law enforcement position. That'll be going to EMCC today for their endorsement, hopefully. So, and hopefully we'll have a new member next time around. So there's a short bio for him in the meeting packet as well.
All right, well, Steve, 2024 policy protocol review cycle.
Good morning, everyone. I was hoping that this would be even shorter than Blake's short presentation, and it will be. So the 2024 policy cycle continues on. We are in the public comment phase. We have 2 additional days after today for public comments to be received. We've got really just 2 comments so far. So please encourage your folks to review the materials that have been put out there on our website, and we do welcome comments. The comments that we've received so far have been impactful. The first was a comment related to protocol C3, which is chest pain and R2 pulmonary edema. That was moved into an off cycle because of the importance of it. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. Protocol T6 for TXA exclusion criteria. Crash 3 study shows that the TXA should not be withheld for penetrating head trauma. So we're working on that. So those will be brought to you in January. So that's the 2024 cycle. If there's any questions. Okay, I'll be back.
Thanks, Steve. So the next item on the agenda is modifications to the structure of EMS agencies advisory committees, and Deborah has that.
So this is a continuation from last meeting where we discussed the potential of making both MAC and OPS non-Brown Act committees. So that item is scheduled to go to EMCC today for their consideration and potential endorsement. So more to follow based on what happens in the next meeting.
Under new business, we have the 2023 off-cycle policy and protocol changes. And Steve, you said you'd be back, and here you are.
He's trying to take the steps for the day.
Said I'd be back. A little faster than MacArthur. You guys are seriously not that young. All right, so the 2023 cycle, off cycle. What we're doing is we're bringing the off cycle materials to you today for endorsement on the changes. Also, we're going to discuss what was the public comments related to those. So the first public comment related to that is on protocol M5, which deals with sedation. And the question came from AMR, give them credit for identifying this, that there seemed to be no real direction for the second dose of midazolam. So we've included that. You can see that in your packet. Made a lot of sense. It was put into play already. In fact, all of these are currently in effect because the changes were absolutely necessary for health and safety. So if you look at your staff report, we identified several policies and protocols that we either created or updated. The first has to do with our, as we talked about, buprenorphine program, medication assisted treatment for opioid overdose. It's been an amazing program so far. It's made a difference in people's lives. And so we implemented that rather quickly. So we're bringing that to you today for endorsement after public comment. We received no public comments on that one. Paramedic scope of practice, of course, needed to be updated to account for buprenorphine. Paramedic provider authorized stock was updated to account for the need for that. And while we're on that one, I'll also mention that with a couple of these protocols and policies, they were on our 2024 cycle. And because they were changed as part of the off cycle, which we're bringing to you now, there were a couple of additional changes. One that I'd like to point out, and oversight on our part, and I'll give Dr. Burley credit for recognizing it, is infant bag valve mask was not on our authorized stock policy. So it's been included, it is now in effect. Your organization's ALS providers need to have an infant bag valve mask. Of course, buprenorphine is considered a narcotic controlled substance, so the controlled substances policy was updated. We've included these patients who are receiving buprenorphine as specialty sort of patients, so we've updated the policy 5000 for patient destination, and then of course the protocol, which gives where we do this within the patients who with a narcotic overdose, that was updated. So those are the policies and protocols we're bringing forward for your comments, questions, and then of course we're looking for endorsement. In addition, we also found that there's some confusion on the use of restraints. So we've looked at policy 4508, use of restraints, and we've updated that policy. Again, in an attempt to be more clear on when to use restraints, why to use restraints, and really to keep the patient safe, to keep the crew safe, because we've had multiple unusual occurrence reports where the staff of the transport provider was having difficulty maintaining the patient or feeling like they couldn't restrain because of the way they perceive the policy. So we've updated that. And then of course, protocol M5, the agitated combative patient protocol, we updated because of the additional use or the second dose of midazolam. So you've had a chance to look at those, have been in your packet. Again, the EMS agency is seeking endorsement, and also before endorsement, if you have any questions. Wow, am I that good at selling? Anyways, we'll be looking for endorsement of that from this committee, and that's essentially the report on the off-cycle process. That's the end of my part. It's up to you guys now. Thanks.
Thanks, Steve. Do we have a motion for endorsement of those updates?
I'll vote.
Ben?
I make a motion.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. So we, so we have a motion and a second, and we'll go ahead and do, we need a roll call vote, or can we just do a? Yeah, currently.
Still, yeah.
Still roll call, yeah.
Comments from the community.
So we'll go ahead and do a roll call vote. Karina, do you want to go through that, or shall we?
I got it.
Oh, Deborah, okay.
Dr. Kalinsky. Aye. Dr. Hawthorne, not here. Dr. Orchard. Dr. Greensick. Also not here. Philip Brown.
Aye.
Jamie Tovar. Not here. Cassie Caldera. Aye. Spencer Harnett.
Aye.
Chief Reyes.
Aye.
Josh Savignon.
Aye.
Ben Hitchcock.
Aye.
Jeff Horner.
Aye.
And Jeff Watkins.
Aye. Thank you all. Motion carries. And that brings us to the next item on the agenda under new business, which is TXA LoSAP renewal. And Deborah, what did you-
So our TXA LoSAP, believe it or not, is already set to expire at the end of September, so time flies. We have applied to the state for a renewal of that LoSOP, and it is scheduled to go to MDAC next week for their review and approval. More to follow based on that.
Thank you. The next item under EMS Quality Improvement Program is the CQI tag report, which is like
So the report obviously was in your agenda packets as well, just quick important dates to make note of. A semi-QI will be on October 3rd. Our T-Quick meeting will be on October 5th. CQI tag will be on October 25th, and stroke QI will be October 25th as well. In addition to that, we've just EMS agency wanted to note the two continuing education opportunities, the ChemPack training and EKG boot camp offered by Salinas Valley Health. CEs are offered, and any of our providers, we would love for you to attend that. Any questions? Thank you all very much.
Thanks, Blake. That brings us to future agenda items. Are there any items that you'd like to add to future agenda?
Possibly one. So with CHOMP opening up, I think it's the Ohani, the crisis intervention for the pediatrics. And then we have a facility in our district called the Kinship Center that they're actually going to be opening up a stabilization unit as well. I guess what I'm curious are they do have crisis mobile teams, but if an ambulance were to be called for a child that met that criteria, again, are we still gonna have to funnel them through the EDs to get to put in those facilities? Or are we gonna be able to, I guess it's somewhat like an alternate destination, which gets into the paramedicine thing, you know, just curious. you
Yeah,
know, that's
so
on the
at
radar.
this point, your protocols aren't gonna change for access to Ohana. They really need a full crisis assessment and to determine if they're eligible.
Mhm.
It's not a locked facility or a full-scale facility, so the patients have to be screened before entering.
Is it on your guys' campus or is it at Ryan
No,
Ranch?
it's in Ryan Ranch,
Ryan
and so
Ranch.
it's not associated with the emergency department or any acute care screening. So at this point, there'll be no direct referral. Now, if we get a mobile crisis team and that team is robust and able to, you know, do the clearance in the field, there may be times that they access the residential or outpatient programs, but that is not going to be set up to date. And again, Ohana, that's a great program in terms of hitting 95% of what we see. It unfortunately doesn't hit that top tier group that requires a locked facility and usually is the difficulty for all of you with prolonged transports in the state. The grant and resources were not robust enough to cover that component, and we had to make a hard decision about, you know, where can we best service the community as a whole? And I think it was felt that hitting 95% of the cases would be better than trying to take off that top tier. So that's still a limit in terms of adolescent locked facilities.
Dr. Kalinsky, how many beds is that facility?
You know what? I'm not certain, but I can find that out. Who's on there and I'll email you when I figure it out. Or
It's
Philip, do you
Nick.
know? Okay, Philip will get
Is it-
that info.
But you know, is like roughly, is it like 10 beds or 20 or just kind of a ballpark?
So they have different components. There's partial components, like where they go in daytime and then return to their family at night. And those capacities are different than the people who actually stay overnight. And then depending upon the intensity of people staying over the night, they may shift. And then we also have a crisis stabilization adolescent unit now at CHOMP, at our facility, that's good for 24 hours. So there's a whole bunch of different ones, and I am not sure the full capacities. I do know that there's certain intensity level patients that, like, then you can't put other people in, right? If there's a lot of resources that have to be diverted to one individual, sometimes our CSU can't take the next one for a while. So we'll try to get you guys further information as Ohana opens and kind of feels out their resources and what they're able to do, but I would not anticipate a direct transport to them for quite some time.
What is the schedule?
But
The date is, I think, within the next week and a half, but let me see if I can find that email to give you the exact date.
that's really exciting for improving adolescent psychiatric services in the county. That's awesome.
Yeah, and as I last know, there was a component of like not having full directorship of the adolescent center. So September 27th is the opening, I think. That's correct. Don't quote me on that. And then they're still working on final directorship and final capacities to be fully implemented.
But do you think it might be possible, maybe at the November MAC meeting to?
Have some updates for you guys?
Yes.
Yeah, we can definitely work on that. So can you put that on your agenda to kind of follow up with Dr. Cheryl Quick's probably the easiest one because she's always in the ER. Taking care of our CSU, and she'll be able to access that. She does most of our kind of adolescent crisis stabilization.
Maybe like even like a brief presentation of what, you know, what. the
You want me to
program is.
invite her and see if I can get
That'd
you
be great.
somebody?
I think
Okay,
it'd be
let's,
nice.
I will message and see if Veronica will do that for me.
Just one follow-up or question, Dr. Burley or Deborah can have the answer to this one. Not that I'm against it at all, but how does the mobile crisis units get around that pre-hospital care and not have to follow the same rules as us?
Investigating.
Well, no, because I mean, I think it behooves if we had that ability to do it, that's why it doesn't make sense, right? Because you're still
So,
establishing.
you know,
pre-hospital
it's,
care.
part of it is that the mobile crisis team is not directly affiliated with the EMS system within the county. They're not EMS providers per se. And so they, you know, they're in many ways an independent entity that's functioning under the auspices of the county. And so in that way, they're different than, you know, an ambulance or a fire engine that comes to the scene. So I guess that's sort of the short answer to that question, but happy to dialogue a little bit more about that offline if you like.
So I mean, some of these calls are gonna be we're gonna arrive at seeing either fire or AMR or both of us, right? And then we're gonna recognize that this patient meets that criteria. Are we then gonna be able to hand care over to them?
I think we need to kind of discuss this more offline. So I think that we're not necessarily at a point where we have all of the details because we're sort of learning about this as well. And we're in dialogue with the county and the mobile crisis team. So let's discuss at a future agenda item and we can kind of give you more clarification on that as we get it as well.
Thank you.
Any other items for future agenda? And announcements for good of the order? Well, hearing none, the next meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, November 8th at 8:30 a.m. And we'll look forward to seeing you all there. A special meeting in October. Okay. Okay, very good. Well, we'll go ahead and adjourn then. Thank you all for being here and we'll see many of you at EMCC shortly.